Well, I'll revise. So now here we have the IAC. IAC stands for infrastructure as a code. So what is the main advantage of IAC is we are going to get the reusability with the IAC. So with the GUI, each and every time we need to provision. But if I go for the IAC solution, easy to provision the resources automatically will get more reusability. So we used to get more reusability. And AWS wise, we have a inbuilt native solution called as CloudFormation, and we are going to use YAML or JSON kind of scripting. No need of any of that like programmatic language like Python, Java, .NET, Node. So these kind of programmatic skills are not required. We can use simple YAML or JSON. That's it's a human readable kind of format. Very simple declarative updates we have. Okay, so YAML is going to use yet another markup language, Unofficially, most of the DevOps tools as of now use using YAML scripts itself. Okay, even if you go for GitHub Actions, GitLab Actions, Kubernetes, Docker Compose kind of resources, most of them are using even Ansible. Okay, all these required YAML kind of code, so we require better to have some knowledge on the YAML scripts. Okay, we need to have the YAML scripts are required. So we need to manage YAML. Okay, or like who are from the JavaScript family. I have already 5 to 6 years of experience on the JavaScript. For those kind of people, like CloudFormation is supporting, even JSON format also it is supporting. JSON format also it is supporting, and AWS sorry, having CloudFormation. In the same way, Azure is having ARM templates, ARM templates, which are called as Azure Resource Manager templates. Those also using YAML or JSON. Those also using YAML or JSON. Okay, but if you come to Terraform, Terraform supports multi-cloud, on-premises cloud, lot of databases, a lot of DevOps tools also. It can provide like automation solutions. That is the reason a lot of companies are preferred to use that solution. There are a lot of companies are preferred compared to compared to like a cloud formation or this. But for the most of the times we need to provision to the client both the solutions we need to provision, and depends upon the user requirement we can go for either Terraform or cloud formation. Any of that we can provision, and depends upon the requirement we need to get more expertise into those areas. Okay, yeah, any doubts on this? Okay, so then you have a multi-cloud and a hybrid environment. So which one is better to use, AWS or sorry, CloudFormation or Terraform? So better to use Terraform itself. Client is insisting, no, I don't use any other cloud other than CloudFormation, sorry, other than AWS. Then we can go for a CloudFormation kind of solution. We can go for a CloudFormation kind of solution. We can go at that moment. Okay. Then what is like IAC means? What is your understanding of IAC?
Infrastructure as a code,
Infrastructure as a code. Okay. What is the main advantage of IAC?
reusability.
Reusability is that okay, and even like automation also is supported. We can integrate with the pipelines also. We can integrate with the pipeline also. So that is the main advantage we are going to get like IAC. And Terraform is using the not YAML or JSON. Okay, so they're using their own inbuilt like a language that's called as HCL. HCL stands for HashiCorp Configuration Language. So that's their own native language. Okay, or DSL, domain specific language. What is the main advantages? that's their own proprietary kind of thing, but it's also a human readable format itself. So that's we no need to worry. It's a human readable format. So hence easily we can manage that also. If it is YAML or JSON, it would be good. But they're using HCL. HCL stands for HCL stands for
HashiCorp
HashiCorp
configuration language.
HashiCorp configuration language we are going to use. Okay. So that's one of the drawback of Terraform we can tell, because mostly the industry standard is
YAML.
YAML or JSON. Okay. But still they're supporting still HCL also is a human readable kind of thing itself. HCL is a human readable kind of thing. Okay. So then here in the cloud formation, we are going to create multiple resources. Can you tell some of the AWS resources? As a bundle, we are going to create. So that bundle maybe we have like a VPC, subnet, route tables, route table association. All that we can create as a bundle. We are going to create that group of resources are called as
Stack.
that stack. Say in the cloud formation, we have like a cloud formation stack. Stack will contain a template. Template is having that YAML code. So in that we are going to specify all the resources whatever we want in one region and one account. We are going to provision in one account and one region whatever the resources we want. So those all as a single bundle we are creating as a cloud formation stack. The template is a YAML or JSON format template having all those resources. Declarative updates is going to store all the declarative updates. It's going to store, and that is the purpose we are calling that as a cloud formation template. But what is the meaning of stack is
Bundle of resources.
group of resources we can create in a single region or single account. We are creating in the single account in one region. We are going to create that. So that's called as
Cloud formation stack.
stack. So cloud formation stack. Okay, so group of resources logically we can create as a single bundle, and we have cloud formation stack set we have. So what is the concept of stack set is, stack set also group of resources itself, but those can be created say in the
Multiple region.
multiple
Multiple.
accounts or multiple regions we can create. Say, can you tell me what is the difference between stack and the stack set? So what is the difference between stack and the stack set?
Stack one region, one
The
account.
stack is one region.
In one account.
So stack set is
Multiple region, multiple accounts.
multiple regions and multiple accounts we can create. Multiple regions and multiple accounts we can create. So for that purpose, we are going to use the stack sets. And in that, the template, what we are going to specify the resources in the form of YAML or JSON, we are calling as the template. Both in the CloudFormation stack and the stack set will have the same template would be there. They will have the template, and from the template, we are going to provision the resources. From that, we are going to provision those resources we are going to provision. Okay. Yeah. Any doubts on this? Okay. And the group of bundle of resources we have. Okay. So those resources we are creating through the stack. Okay, so those bundle of resources we are going to create through the stack. So now, if you want to provision the resources, for the first time we need to create a template. In the template, we need to specify the resources like whatever we want in the YAML or JSON format, and that we need to upload to CloudFormation. Then CloudFormation technically storing that in the S3 bucket, the template. From that, the resources are getting provisioned. Okay, so then once the resources are provisioned, we need to choose the template, then configure the stack details. All those we can perform. The advantage is more reusability, automation, consistency, version control, and the cost also can be reduced. The cost also can be reduced. Okay, so then so now here we need to uh, uh, provision the resources. Once we provision the resources, we can integrate with the cloud notifications also we can send using the SNS kind of thing. In the SNS, we can send those resources. Okay. Then, template is going to specify whatever the resources we are going to provision, and stack is the collection of those resources. Uh, Assume we have created a stack in the CloudFormation. If I delete that stack, can you tell me what is going to happen? If I delete the stack, what is going to happen? If I
It will
delete,
delete all the resources.
come again,
It will delete all the resources.
it will delete the resources. Okay, so that means if I delete the stack, the resources are getting all the resources are getting deleted automatically. Okay, so that is also we need to check where we can, if you says about I don't want to delete, I want to perform some changes. I want to perform some changes. Okay, so at that moment, like uh, we are going to use like directly on the resource level, we shouldn't do the change. Okay, assume have created 10 resources. Now I want to perform some change in my security group. I forgot to open one port to 443. I forgot to open. Now I want to modify that port. I want to modify. Okay. At this use case, what I need to do is I need to change that. For that, I do, directly in that security group, I don't go edit that security group rules. I don't want to add a inbound rule. What I need to do is
Change it.
I need to create a change set. I need to create a change set, and the change set we need to perform whatever the changes is required, and the changes we need to provision. The changes we need to perform. And what is the main advantage of the change set is before performing the changes, it shows the preview of that resources also. Means always if we are using CloudFormation in our project, always need to perform the changes through always need to
Change it.
perform the changes through change set
Change it.
itself. Don't perform the changes manually at the resource level. That means even in the Terraform also this would be applied. If you are using Terraform for your project, then don't perform those changes manually. Don't perform those changes manually. So perform those changes through change set. Okay. So perform those changes through the change sets we need to perform. What is the main advantage is we have a preview of that. Accidentally we are not changing, and the changes are in our control, and we can do the approval or cancel those changes also. Okay, so that's we can have the change set. Okay, now I want to create 100 resources in 5 different AWS accounts, and I want to use 2 different regions for those. Okay, so then which resource I need to provision?
Stack set.
Stack set we need to use because we have multiple regions. and multiple accounts we need to use. Say in this, I need to manage the change sets, sorry, stack sets. In which use case we need to perform like this one. So in which use case we need to perform the like change sets? What is the use case to create the change sets?
Then we need to modify any resource.
If any of the modify, what is the advantage? What is the problem if you directly do that change? If you directly do the change, what is the problem? If I directly do the change, that resource is assuming it's a drift. That resource is going to be assumed as a like a drifted. So what is the meaning of drifted is in my CloudFormation like a template, the actual configuration is some settings, but the actual resource is something different. So then that is called as the drifted. What is the meaning of drifted here? The actual expectation of the resource is different and that actual resource is different. At this moment, that is called as drifted resource. Okay, so we shouldn't maintain the drifted. In order to avoid the drifted, if any changes need to be performed, those changes always recommended to perform through
Change it.
change set itself. Those changes need to be performed through the change sets is one of the best practice we need to perform. Okay, so the change set, what is the main advantage is we can have a preview, we can have the approval kind of mechanism, and we can restrict also if we don't like those changes. We can restrict those changes. If we don't like them also we can perform. Okay, so that is also one of the advantage. If you directly do the changes automatically, then how we can recognize them? So in the CloudFormation template, so we have an option called drift detection. What is that? If any of the resources have been modified without knowing to the CloudFormation, CloudFormation can recognize them, and that's shown as drift detection is going to shown. Is going to show as a drift detection. Okay, then like AWS is not charging any money for CloudFormation. AWS is not charging any money for the CloudFormation. For the resources only they are charging. What is that meaning? Only for the resources only they are charging. Means only for the resources means like if I create a EC2 instance, that EC2 instance only they will charge. Okay, so if we create a like a Route 53 or S3 buckets for that objects, how it's going to store. Okay, so like this here we can create those resources through the CloudFormation we can create. Sorry, that resources like we can control. Any doubts on this?
In Terraform, we have similar kind of stacks, right?
Yes, yes. So we can create multiple providers to provision multiple regions or multiple accounts. The same thing, even Terraform having more features also. Okay, then what is the default rollback behavior? We'll discuss in the CloudFormation. So assume in my CloudFormation template, we have around 30 resources. And I provision that I deployed the stack, CloudFormation stack I deployed. 10 resources got created. On the 11th resource, my resources, like my 11th resource got not creating. 11th resource is not creating. Then what is going to happen is like if the 11th resource fails, already 10 resources are created, those would be rollback. Okay, what is the default behavior?
Rollback.
So by default, the rollback is going to happen. Okay, so by default, the rollback is going to happen. Okay, so that's we are calling that as like that is the default rollback behavior. Okay, so that is the default rollback behavior. Okay, if we don't want also we can change, but that is the default behavior. Any doubts on that? So what is the default rollback behavior? In the middle, like it's either zero resources or all resources. If we don't in the middle, if something goes wrong, it's not going to preserve those resources. It's deleting those resources. But if we want to change, that's in the stack properties. We can change it. That means we can preserve those resources also. We can preserve. Okay. But what is the by default behavior? What is that by default behavior?
Rollback.
So by default, it's going to roll back. By default, it's going to roll back. Then we can send an email notification also, because if we have multiple resources have been provisioned with the automation kind of pipelines, if we integrate, better to send a notification also. And what about the billing? What about the billing? The billing is not chargeable for the cloud formation. They're only charging for
Resources.
only for the
That's
resources they're charging. Only for the resources they're going to charge. Okay. And most of the resources in the project, better to use one IAC solution itself. Don't use mixed. That's little confusing. Means some resources through CloudFormation, some resources through Terraform, some through CLI. That's not recommended. Okay. So by default, what is the rollback is? Like if any of the stack fails, they're going to destroy those resources. Okay, and even we need to we can use the stack policies also. So we have the stack policies also we have. So in the stack policies, we can manage if we want to protect accidental termination kind of thing, or we can enable locking also for the resources. What is the main advantage of that is once I created the resources, I don't want to modify that resource by someone, or I don't want to allow to delete that resource. Okay, so these kind of things also we can attach to the stack policy. What is the advantage of stack policy? Accidental delete kind of things, those all we can manage. Okay, so that's some resources I don't want to modify also. Okay, so using that we can use the stack policies. So most of the critical production resources will protect through the stack policies. Okay, so then how the cloud formation stack looks like, we'll discuss. Say the template format we'll discuss. So now here this is either JSON or YAML. You can tell you are using YAML itself. And in this, the first step we have is like a template format version we have. Okay, so um, so now here we need to use the CloudFormation template. First we have the template format version we have, then description, metadata, parameters, rules, mappings, conditions, transform, resources, outputs. So now in this, which one like is mandatory is like resources is the mandatory thing, but we are enhancing with all these details. Can you tell me a CloudFormation template stack consists of what are the blocks it consists? What are the blocks it is consists? Say that is having like AWS template format version, like which version of the resources we are going to use. Okay, so that's we need to specify. Then we need to specify the like we need to specify the description. Okay, so all these are optional. Okay, we need to use the metadata, parameters, rules. Okay, so then mappings. Yep. Yeah. So now in this, what we need to specify is, so we need to specify the resources. But actually in the real time, we are going to keep the version, description, parameters. Okay, then we have the resources and outputs. Okay, so these all mostly in the real time we have, but actually these all the things we have. Actually, these all the things we are going to specify. We'll discuss what are those also. So that the previous one is the JSON format, and this is the YAML format. So now here, this is the date of the version, like once that resource got or that API version kind of thing with the date we are specifying. Okay, then description, like what is the purpose of that for the which project or what are the resources you are creating. So those all we are going to specify. Then directly here they didn't kept anything. They directly kept the resource block itself. Okay. So by seeing that resource block, can you tell me what resource is getting created? What resource is getting created here? So that is getting created like one EC2 instance is getting created. One EC2 instance is getting created. An EC2 instance is getting created. Okay, so then here we have like instance type, image ID. Yesterday, even in the CLI also we given the same details, right? But here we are giving in the form of, we are giving in the form of like YAML format we are specifying. In the YAML format, we are going to specify. Now the mandatory thing in that resource is the resources. Okay, the resources is a mandatory. Whatever the resources we want to create, like maybe VPC, subnet, instance, S3 bucket, RDS, Route 53, DNS zones, like this, those details we need to specify in the resource block. Okay, in the resource block, we need to specify these details. So this is JSON, but here we need to tell that which service name, which resource type, those properties, all those we need to specify. Okay, then very important one is parameters. So what is the concept of the parameter is by using the parameter, more reusability is going to come to that like to the template. So that means in the previous win, we have used directly the resource block and we specified that AMI details, image details, all those directly we declared. But if I go for the parameters, if I use that values are going to be reusable. Okay, that means we are going to extend the life of that template by using the parameters. I can pass my parameters. You can pass the different values for your parameters. That kind of reusability we are giving to the template by specifying the parameters. So, what is the advantage of using the parameters in the CloudFormation template? The template, if I use only the resource block, we have the hard-coded values. That's not a best practice in the programmatical. So we need to pass it through the parameters itself. What is the main advantage is the script is going to become more reusable kind of thing. The script is going to become more reusable by using the parameters. Okay, so that's the reason always we are enhancing our template directly, not resources we are using. We are specifying it through the parameters. Okay, then we can use the output values also. The output values, yesterday we created an instance. What is the output we got is we got an instance ID, right? We don't know before. So what is the difference between parameters are? Those are the input values. But what are the output values? We will get a public IP, private IP, we will get an instance ID, we will get a security group ID, subnet IDs, all those after provisioning we are getting. So those may be the inputs for the next level of automation. Okay, those details we are going to store them as output values. So that means the output details are capturing those important details about the resources after provisioning. We are getting those details after provisioning. We are getting those details, and that is the purpose we are using output values. We are using there. Okay, and whenever we want to pass the values at the cross tags also, we can use them. Okay, so these all very important. Mostly in your CloudFormation template, will have a template version, basic description, parameters, resources, and outputs. Okay, so what are the things mostly we will have? So what are the details we will have mostly in our template? What are the things you will tell? First one is format version,
resources,
then description, parameters, resources, and finally
output, output.
outputs we have. Okay, so finally we have the outputs. Additional to this, we can map them like these are all the optional kind of things, but all are optional except resources. Okay, so now here we have mapping sessions. We want to say suppose my AMI ID for the US region is different, for Stockholm region is different. But depends upon the region what I have passed, I need to take the value. Means if I use the Stockholm region, my AMI ID in another region is not acceptable. Then here if the region is this, I'm going to keep the value of that AMI ID is different. Okay, if that is another one, I'm not going to specify, like depends upon those details. At that moment, we are using mappings we are going to specify. So in which use case we are going to use the mappings is, we have some set of variables and based on the condition that value it need to take. That means if this region, this value I want to take. If it is another region, I don't want to hard code even at the variable level also. For that purpose, we are going to use mapping variables I'm going to use. Okay, so it depends upon our requirement. So we need to choose those values. 1 second. So we can add a rule section also. We can add a conditions kind of things. Okay, so those kind of any of the conditions we want to use, that rules we can integrate. Okay, so that rules like we want to do more rules like a kind of functions we can use. This matching need to be done. These values it need to do. So based on the rules we can keep the conditions also. Okay, so I want to pass a password. Minimum these details are required for the password. 6 letters are required. Those only you take it. So these kind of conditions we are going to specify. If that conditions are not matching in the parameters, then that stack is not getting created. That stack is not getting created. Okay, so that is the purpose. We are going to use the conditions we are going to specify. That conditions we are going to specify. Okay. So these all we need to specify in our like in our resources. We need to specify all these. These are optional kind of things. But in the Terraform, we'll discuss more this. CloudFormation, we should tell we have done the POC on both CloudFormation and Terraform, but the client went for Terraform itself. But I can manage both the things like that. We need to project. Okay. And in the transform, like we have one more session is the transform session. Like we want to process or modify our resources or template. Okay. So then like maybe for the reusable kind of things or like we can use like a transformation of the resources in the serverless. Those values you want to modify. Okay. So that's like is one of the advanced feature in the Lambda functions we'll use. Okay, so that's transform is there, and format version is that we can specify the format version which API kind of thing or which is a valid version of the API to the HDK we are telling us. Okay, so that's like a valid template version with the date format we need to specify. Okay, with the date format with that based on these resources is going to understand that. So CloudFormation will understand that template the latest version. This is the latest version. Description is a pure optional kind of thing. What is the purpose of that template? We can specify in this. What is the purpose of the template? We can specify. Okay, so these all the resources we are going to specify in the template. From this, we are going to create the resources. Okay, so that template also we can store mostly in the S3 bucket, or even if you upload that in the form of YAML or JSON also, that would be stored in the S3 bucket itself is going to create, and those parameters we can store, and those values we can create. Okay. So these all the details we are specifying with link. Okay, so these are the resources we need to provision from the cloud formation template stack. We need to provision. So here we'll come to AWS. And we have a template designer also. We have from the designer also we can create those resources. So that means instead of YAML, we can design that like graphically also we'll create those. So now here, cloud formation is a regional level feature only. Sorry, with the stack set, we can create at the global level, but with the stack is region level. Okay, and we require the IAM level permissions also is required. And some of the services in the AWS also is using these resources when we create the Kubernetes clusters or Beam stack, the backend also is creating those resources. It's creating those resources also. Okay, so now here we need to create we need to create depends upon the requirement. We need to create the stacks. Say go to stack, create a stack. With the new resources, we are going to create the stack. Like we can choose an existing template or we can build from the infrastructure composer. That means already we have the template and the template source we can keep in the S3 bucket we can keep, or we can upload a template file locally we can upload, or we can keep in the GitHub. From that we can sync from there. Mostly we'll upload that in the S3 bucket. That bucket we can use. Okay. And mostly for the templates, AWS is provisioning those template resources, and the template resources we are going to use. So those template resources we are going to specify, or first if you upload to the S3 bucket, that S3 bucket also we can use. That URL of the bucket we can specify. From that bucket URL, that's going to provision the resources. From the S3 bucket URL, that's going to create the resources. Okay, so now like we have in the Stockholm. So here they given one YAML code. I copied that data. So we can store that in the YAML JSON format also. We can store, we can upload, or we can upload to S3 bucket also. Or I'm going to upload from the template file. Otherwise, we can create that from the infrastructure composer, which is a graphical kind of thing. So now here, this is the graphical kind of thing. We can create that whatever the resources we want, we can create those resources. So this here we can choose that template. Now here we can copy that template also we can create, or manually we can choose the whatever the resources we want also. Either this is the YAML format or JSON format also we can specify. As of now, this we it automatically switches also. Then here I'm going to do that script is whether it's valid or not. Okay. Then from this I'm creating the template. So now the template has been imported and the backend it's created one S3 bucket also. Okay. And that template I copied from this GitHub, right? Try to understand this location also we have. Then here we may need to specify the parameter details, stack details, all those we need to specify. So I'm going to specify the my first stack. Then T2, T3 small, instead of that I may use T3 micro I'll use. Then my key pair name. Then that AMI ID, it is taking SH location from that IP I'm opening. But if I want to open from anywhere, so these all the different values because other guys can use their own details. I'm choosing the default subnet. Then with all the default options, I'm going to create the stack. Okay, so by default, the stack failover behavior is roll back all stack resources. But if you want to preserve them, we can preserve those resources also. We can provision those resources also. We can send a notification also, email notification also. We can send. We go through those email SNS topic we can create, and it can send a notification also. So now here we have the stack, and that stack is in the progress. So that stack is being created now. And all the resources here it will come. Then if I have any output values, here I'm going to get those output values, that instance ID. So these all we need to specify in that outputs. And we given the key name, then we given like what is the instance type. Those are we are passing as the parameters. Okay, so then assume one like in the resources, one security group also may be created here. So that security group is got created here. That directly we shouldn't perform any changes in the GUI level. This is not a best practice. Okay, if you do the changes like this, what is going to happen? That resource shows in the cloud formation as the drift itself. I'll go to my stack, my first stack. Then here are all these events, resources, outputs, all these details we have. If I go for stack options, I can perform a detect drift. So now here drift detection has been initialized. Then I'll go to stack options, like view the drift results. Okay, so now that resource, like EC2 is in the sync, but security group has been modified. But if you don't want to get this kind of state, what we need to do? Any of the changes need to be created through
Change set.
change set itself. Now again, I'll go to that security group. I'll delete that rule. Then again, I'm going to perform drift detection. Sometimes it takes uh, 3 to 5 minutes, and for all the resources, like it doesn't have the capability to identify the drift detection also. Only for the important resources it can identify. So now the drift detection has been initialized. Now both it is showing us, both are in the in sync only we have. Both the resources are in the sync only. Okay, so then that same changes how we need to perform is go to that stack actions, create a. So we can use the same existing template, or we can create a new template, or we can edit that new security group rule. Otherwise, I'm using the same existing. I want to change the parameters. Like instead of T3 micro, I want to change some other thing, or I want to change the key pair. But directly changing the key pair is not possible. Okay, it's going to delete the existing resource and will create a new EC2 instance is getting created. So as of now, once I create the change set, that change set it won't like execute. So it's not going to affect that. But once we approve that or execute that change set, then the changes will come. Now here, what is the policy action? Replace and delete. So what is that meaning is this is going to delete the existing EC2 instance and a new instance is getting created. But if I use that replace and delete, first it's creating a new instance. After that existing instance is getting existing resource is getting deleted. Okay, so now here we can say this is going to show the preview of also. Okay, so then if I like what are the changes, all that it's going to show us. Then I need to perform that, execute that changes. Okay, so like this, if any changes are need to be performed, we need to use change sets itself. Sorry, change sets we need to use. And there is one more concept as nested stack. We can use one stack can call another stack that is called as nested stack. So what is the concept of nested stack? So in one CloudFormation stack itself, we can call another stack also that is called as nested stacks. Okay. So try to create different resources through the CloudFormation templates also try to create it. Okay. So try to create this change sets, all those also try to create those. Okay.